Chosen one, let me ask you something. Have you noticed it lately? Not as a thought, but as a pressure. Not as fear, but as a quiet tightening in the atmosphere around you. You move through your days and everything looks the same, yet nothing feels the same. Conversations land differently. Silence feels louder. Even rest carries a strange alertness. You are not imagining this. You are not becoming overly sensitive. And you are not losing your grounding. What you are sensing is real, and it did not arrive randomly. This week is not unfolding by accident. It has weight because it has timing. There are moments when heaven does not shout, but leans in, when the spiritual climate narrows and focuses, like a lens tightening before clarity snaps into view. That is what you are feeling now. Not chaos, not dread, precision. A narrowing, an intentional stillness that presses on your awareness and asks you to pay attention without panicking. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, stay with me, because what matters here is not excitement. It is orientation. The tension you sense is not meant to scare you. It is meant to position you. Most people experience tension and immediately label it stress, burnout, or anxiety. You have learned not to rush to labels. You have learned to listen. That is already part of why this week is different for you. Notice how the pressure does not push you outward. It pulls you inward. It draws your attention away from noise and toward awareness. That is not how fear works. Fear scatters. This gathers. Fear clouds. This clarifies. Fear demands reaction. This asks for presence. That distinction matters because it tells you what kind of moment you are standing in. You are not stepping into a spectacle. You are stepping into alignment. Alignment rarely announces itself with fireworks. It announces itself with subtle discomfort, with the sense that something old no longer fits, and something new is quietly approaching. Think of it as the atmosphere tightening its grip on distractions, so your perception can sharpen. Heaven does this before it reveals anything meaningful. This is why everything feels slightly compressed. Time feels strange. Days feel dense. You may notice that you are less interested in filling space with words, scrolling, or background noise. That is not withdrawal. That is calibration. When something precise is about to be seen, the environment simplifies itself. Excess falls away. The room quiets. The signal strengthens. You are not being isolated as punishment. You are being insulated for clarity. There is a difference. Isolation empties. Insulation protects. This week carries the feeling of insulation. Your spirit is being buffered from unnecessary input, so you can sense what is actually moving underneath the surface of things. Pay attention to how your discernment has been behaving. You have not suddenly become suspicious. You have become selective. Certain conversations drain you faster. Certain energies feel heavier. Certain places that once felt neutral now feel loud. That is not judgment. That is filtration. When perception sharpens, tolerance for distortion drops. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming accurate. This accuracy is what marks the beginning of seeing. Not visions yet, not revelations yet, just accuracy. The ability to feel when something is aligned or misaligned, without needing evidence or explanation. This is the foundation. Heaven never shows without first stabilizing the vessel. And stabilization feels like tension, because it requires stillness where movement used to be. You may find yourself pausing more before responding, watching more than speaking, letting moments pass without filling them. That is not hesitation. That is mastery, forming quietly. You are learning how to hold awareness without grasping, how to observe without reacting. This is essential, because what is coming this week is not meant to be chased. It is meant to be noticed. If you try to explain this feeling to someone who is not tuned the same way, they would miss it entirely. They would say nothing has changed. They would ask what you were talking about. That does not invalidate your experience. It confirms it. Sensitivity to spiritual timing has never been democratic. It is entrusted, not broadcast. This is why you must resist the urge to overinterpret. The atmosphere tightening does not mean something bad is about to happen. It means something precise is about to happen. Precision always feels intense before it feels clear. Think of the moment before a door opens, when the latch clicks, but the door has not moved yet. That click is what you are sensing, the mechanism engaging. You are not being tested to see if you can endure fear. You are being tested to see if you can remain grounded in neutrality. Can you stay calm without understanding everything? Can you stay open without demanding proof? Can you stay still without trying to force meaning too early? This is the posture that allows seeing without distortion. The world trains people to react instantly. Heaven trains people to remain present. This week is training in presence. Not passive presence, but alert stillness. The kind where your awareness is awake, but your emotions are not running the show. You are learning to stand inside a moment without rushing ahead of it. You may also notice your body responding before your thoughts do. A tightening in the chest that is not panic. A heaviness in the limbs that is not fatigue. A sense of quiet gravity pulling you to slow down. The body often senses alignment before the mind understands it. Do not fight this. Let it inform you without controlling you. Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is breaking down. Something is lining up. And alignment always feels unfamiliar at first, because it removes the noise you are unconsciously leaning on. When the noise goes quiet, the silence can feel loud. But that silence is where accuracy lives. This week is not about adding something new to your identity. It is about subtracting distraction from your perception. Seeing what no human was meant to see does not mean seeing something external and dramatic. It means seeing what was hidden by speed, by clutter, by emotional reactivity. It means recognizing patterns, motives, timing, and truth without strain. For now, all you are asked to do is notice. Notice how the atmosphere feels tighter. Notice how your spirit feels more alert. Notice how you are less interested in surface-level engagement. Do not try to interpret everything yet. Interpretation comes later. Awareness comes first. You are standing at the threshold of a week that is designed, not random. The tension you feel is not a warning. It is an invitation. An invitation to stay present, to stay grounded, and to let clarity emerge naturally instead of forcing it prematurely. Nothing needs to be proven. Nothing needs to be announced. This is quiet work, internal work, foundational work, and it is exactly how meaningful shifts always begin. Not with noise, but with a tightening that says, pay attention now. Stay here. Breathe. Let the atmosphere do what it is doing. This is not the moment to rush forward. It is the moment to become accurate enough to recognize what opens next. The veil you are sensing this week does not behave like a curtain tearing open. It behaves more like a doorway you suddenly realize you've been standing inside the entire time. Nothing dramatic swings wide. Nothing explodes into view. Instead, your perception shifts just enough for you to recognize depth where you once saw surface. That is what people misunderstand when they hear the phrase, seeing what humans were never meant to see. They imagine shock. They imagine spectacle. But heaven works through calibration, not overwhelm. What is happening now is not that something foreign is arriving. It is that something familiar is finally being perceived correctly. The veil was never meant to block reality. It was meant to filter it until the observer could handle accuracy without distortion. This week, that filter thins, not because the world changes, but because you do. You are not being shown forbidden imagery. You are being given access to forbidden clarity. Forbidden not because it is dangerous, but because it is destabilizing to those who are not grounded. Truth seen without humility turns into arrogance. Insight seen without stillness turns into fear. That is why this doorway only opens when your nervous system is calm enough to hold it. Notice how your mind is quieter than usual. Thoughts still come, but they do not dominate. They pass through instead of dragging you with them. This is not detachment. This is orientation. Your awareness is learning to stay centered while information moves around it. That is essential, because what the doorway reveals cannot be processed through panic or excitement. It must be received through neutrality. You may feel moments where things suddenly make sense without explanation. Patterns connect effortlessly. Old confusion dissolves without argument. You are not thinking your way into understanding. Understanding is arising on its own. That is the doorway effect. When perception aligns, comprehension no longer requires effort. This is also why you may feel less interested in debating, convincing, or explaining yourself. When you see through a doorway, you do not need to argue about what is on the other side. You simply know. And knowing has a quiet quality. It does not rush. It does not shout. It settles. The veil thinning does not mean you will suddenly see visions everywhere. It means you will see meaning where there used to be randomness. You will recognize timing where there used to be coincidence. You will sense intention where there used to be confusion. This is subtler and far more powerful than spectacle. Be careful here. The temptation is to dramatize the moment or rush ahead of it. Resist that. Doorways require pause. If you sprint through, you miss what they are meant to show you. This week is not about crossing into something new as fast as possible. It is about standing in the threshold long enough for your perception to stabilize. You may notice that certain truths land gently instead of forcefully. They do not shock you. They resonate. They feel obvious in hindsight. That is because the doorway does not introduce chaos. It introduces coherence. It aligns what was already present but misinterpreted. This is why fear has no place here. Fear collapses perception back into survival mode, and survival mode cannot see clearly. Calm is not optional. It is the key that keeps the doorway open. That is why heaven has been slowing you down. That is why distractions are falling away. Clarity needs space. You may also notice your intuition becoming more specific, less vague impressions, more precise nudges. Instead of emotional reactions, you sense clean instructions, not loud commands, gentle directives. Pause here, wait there, do not engage, move quietly. These are not impulses, they are calibrations. The doorway does not flood you with information. It filters information differently. You start noticing what matters and ignoring what does not without effort. This is what it means to see without strain. The mind is no longer scanning desperately. Awareness is receiving selectively. You're not becoming superior. You are becoming attuned. There is a difference. Attunement brings humility because it shows you how much was always happening beyond your awareness. It softens you. It steadies you. It removes the need to posture. You might feel moments of awe, but not the kind that excites, the kind that quiets. A deep recognition that reality is layered, intentional, and far more intelligent than surface appearances suggest. This awe does not inflate the ego. It dissolves it gently. This doorway is also why restlessness may still be present without anxiety. Your system is adjusting to a wider bandwidth of perception. That adjustment takes energy. It is normal to feel both alert and tired, both grounded and sensitive. Do not label this imbalance. It is transition. Do not expect others to notice what you are noticing. Doorways are individual experiences. They open according to readiness, not proximity. Two people can stand in the same room and inhabit completely different realities. This is not loneliness. It is alignment. As the veil behaves like a doorway, your role is simple but not easy. Stay present. Stay humble. Stay observant. Do not rush to conclusions. Do not chase validation. Let perception settle before interpretation begins. What you are being allowed to see is not meant to impress you. It is meant to orient you. It prepares you for what comes next by stabilizing how you see now. This is the quiet beginning of sight that does not distort under pressure. And remember this: doorways do not announce themselves with certainty. They announce themselves with subtle recognition. That feeling of, yes, this makes sense, even though I cannot explain it yet. Trust that. It is not imagination. It is alignment. Stay here. The doorway remains open as long as you remain calm, and what reveals itself next will not need to be forced. As the week moves forward, something subtle but unmistakable begins to happen. The atmosphere you felt tightening now starts speaking in patterns. Not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. This is how timing announces itself when it locks into place. Signs do not arrive to impress you. They arrive to confirm alignment. You begin to notice repetition, not obsessive repetition, but meaningful recurrence. Numbers that surface at quiet moments, phrases that echo across unrelated conversations, scriptures, lyrics, or thoughts that meet you in unexpected places. This is not the universe trying to get your attention in a frantic way. This is order revealing itself gently. Here is where discernment matters more than excitement. Signs are not commands. They are coordinates. They do not tell you what to do. They tell you where you are. When timing locks in, reality leaves fingerprints everywhere. The mistake most people make is chasing the fingerprints instead of understanding what they point toward. You are not meant to hunt signs. You are meant to recognize them when they pass naturally through your awareness. There is a calm confidence that comes with true confirmation. It does not demand urgency. It does not create pressure. It simply settles into your knowing and says, yes, you are aligned. Notice how these confirmations do not pull you outward. They do not make you frantic to act or announce. They anchor you. They stabilize you. They reassure you without inflating you. That is how you know they are clean. When a sign creates anxiety, it is not confirmation. It is distraction wearing spiritual language. Dreams may become clearer now, not louder, but sharper, less symbolic chaos, more direct impression. You may wake with a sense of understanding rather than confusion. Even if the imagery fades, the knowing remains. That knowing is the signal, not the imagery itself. Pay attention to how these dreams feel in your body when you wake. Calm, weighty, grounded, not rushed, not dramatic. Dreams that carry alignment do not jolt you awake. They settle into you and stay. You carry them through the day like a quiet compass. Numbers may appear, but not to be decoded obsessively. They function as markers, not messages. They remind you to pause and notice. They are less about meaning and more about timing. When you see them, it is not a demand to act. It is an invitation to stay present. You may also notice conversations lining up strangely. Someone says exactly what you needed to hear without knowing it. A question you have been holding internally gets answered casually by a stranger or a passing comment. These are not coincidences stacking up randomly. This is coherence surfacing. But here is the discipline. Do not turn coherence into compulsion. You do not need to chase every sign or assign meaning to every repetition. Overinterpretation collapses clarity. The goal is not to extract information. The goal is to remain oriented. Ask yourself this instead. Does this confirmation bring calm or urgency? Does it ground you or agitate you? True alignment always steadies the nervous system. False signals create adrenaline. Learn to tell the difference. Your body already knows. Scripture may also come alive differently this week. Not as new information, but as direct address. Words you have read many times suddenly feel personal, precise, and timely. Not because the text changed, but because your perception did. The same words land differently when timing aligns. Again, do not rush to explain this to others. This language is not for debate. It is for anchoring. Some revelations are meant to root you, not recruit others. Keep them close. Let them do their quiet work. You may feel an increased desire to test what you are noticing. This is healthy when done gently. Testing does not mean doubting. It means observing without attachment. Let signs repeat naturally. Let clarity deepen without forcing it. Truth does not collapse under patience. One of the clearest indicators that timing has locked in is how little you feel the need to convince yourself. You are not talking yourself into belief. You are noticing recognition arising on its own. This recognition feels simple, almost obvious. That simplicity is its strength. Be mindful of the temptation to dramatize. When signs multiply, the ego may want to elevate the moment into something performative. Resist that. Performance drains power. Presence preserves it. The most important confirmations often arrive without emotional spikes. You may also notice a reduction in internal noise. Old doubts lose their grip. Questions that once looped endlessly no longer feel urgent. Not because they were answered directly, but because they no longer matter in the same way. Alignment rearranges priorities effortlessly. This is also where discernment protects you from obsession. Signs are meant to guide, not dominate. If you feel compelled to check, recheck, or seek reassurance constantly, step back. Return to stillness. Alignment does not need reinforcement. It sustains itself. Remember, confirmation does not always affirm what you want. Sometimes it clarifies what must be released. You may realize certain paths are quietly closing, certain interests fading, certain conversations losing relevance. This is not loss. This is refinement. When timing locks in, excess sheds naturally. You're not being asked to cut everything away forcefully. You are being allowed to let go without resistance. This is a gift. Accept it. As signs continue to surface, let them pass through you without grasping. Think of them as lights along a path, not the destination itself. They illuminate where you are standing, not where you must sprint toward. You do not need to understand everything this week. You need to remain oriented, calm, observant, grounded. Confirmation does not shout, it nods. And when you notice yourself nodding back internally, without excitement, without fear, without urgency, know this: timing has locked in. You are exactly where you need to be. Stay present. Let the signs do their quiet work. What comes next will arrive without being chased. When the glimpse finally arrives, it does not announce itself with spectacle. It does not interrupt your day with drama or demand that you stop everything to witness something external. It arrives as knowing, clean, quiet, unmistakable knowing. You do not strain for it. You do not chase it. It lands fully formed, as if it has been waiting for the exact moment your system was stable enough to receive it. This is where many people misunderstand what it means to see. They expect images, scenes, voices, something theatrical. But the most powerful revelations bypass imagination entirely. They move beneath thought and settle directly into awareness. You do not see with your eyes, you see with orientation. And once it arrives, you are not confused. You are calm. You might be in prayer, or resting, or doing something ordinary like walking, washing dishes, sitting quietly. Nothing special on the outside. Then suddenly, something aligns internally. A realization surfaces that does not feel new, yet you know you have never held it this clearly before. It is not accompanied by excitement. It is accompanied by sobriety. Your body responds before your mind reacts. A subtle heaviness, not oppressive, but grounding. Your breath deepens naturally. Your shoulders soften. There is a sense of gravity, as if reality just became more honest. This is how clean knowing feels. It does not elevate you emotionally. It anchors you. You are not overwhelmed because this glimpse is not information heavy. It is direction heavy. It does not flood you with details. It adjusts how you perceive everything else. Like a lens snapping into focus, suddenly what was blurry is clear without explanation. You do not need to analyze it. Analysis would only dull it. This knowing carries a quality that is difficult to articulate. It feels complete, self-contained. It does not ask questions. It answers them without words. You might try to describe it later and struggle, not because it was vague, but because it was too precise for language. There is no rush attached to it, no urgency to act immediately. That is important. False revelations create pressure. True ones create stability. You may feel a quiet sense of responsibility settle in, but it is not heavy. It is clarifying. It says, this matters, but you do not need to panic. You may also notice that emotional reactions are absent. No fear, no thrill, no adrenaline, just calm alertness. This is how you know it did not come from imagination. Imagination stimulates emotion. This bypassed it. The glimpse may arrive as sudden clarity about a situation, a person, a direction, or a boundary. Something you have been circling mentally resolves instantly without debate. You are not relieved in a dramatic way. You are simply done questioning. That closure is the signal. Sometimes the knowing arrives as a warning without fear, a gentle certainty that something is not aligned. No judgment, no story, just recognition. You are not meant to confront or explain. You are meant to adjust quietly. This is how discernment operates at a mature level. At other times, it may arrive as reassurance, a deep confirmation that something you have been holding steady through uncertainty is indeed aligned. Not in a way that inflates you, in a way that steadies you further. You do not celebrate, you exhale. Pay attention to how this knowing affects your appetite for noise. After it arrives, you may feel less inclined to talk, scroll, or distract yourself, not because you are withdrawn, but because excess feels unnecessary. You are not bored. You are complete in that moment. You might also notice that your thinking slows down afterward. Not dull, deliberate. Each thought feels more intentional, less reactive. The mind becomes a tool again, not a driver. This is what happens when awareness takes the lead. The glimpse does not demand belief. It does not ask you to convince yourself. It simply is. And that is why it cannot be unrecognized. Once you know, you know. Not intellectually, structurally. Your internal orientation has shifted slightly, but permanently. This is why you must resist the urge to immediately interpret what it means long-term. Interpretation comes later. Right now, the work is to let the knowing settle, to let it integrate without interference. Overthinking this moment would only fracture it. You might feel the temptation to share it, to test it externally, to ask someone else if it makes sense. Pause.
Not everything that arrives cleanly needs immediate confirmation. Some insights must remain internal until they mature. Premature exposure weakens them. Notice also that this knowing does not isolate you emotionally. It isolates you perceptually. You feel connected, but selective. You are not above others. You are simply oriented differently for now. That orientation will guide your next steps quietly. You may find that certain choices become obvious afterward, not because you reasoned through them, but because alternatives simply lose energy. You do not fight temptation, it fades. You do not wrestle indecision, it dissolves. That is the power of clear sight. This is the forbidden glimpse in its true form. Not forbidden because it is dramatic, but because it requires maturity to hold without misuse. It cannot be weaponized. It cannot be marketed. It cannot be rushed. It must be lived. And you are living it now, calmly, steadily, without announcement. Let it change how you listen, how you pause, how you choose. Let it refine your sense of timing. Let it reduce your need to explain yourself. You do not owe anyone a breakdown of your perception. What you have seen, or rather known, is not meant to make you special. It is meant to make you accurate. Accuracy brings responsibility, but not burden. It brings clarity without strain. Stay grounded in the ordinary after this. Eat, rest, move slowly. Do not inflate the moment. Integration happens in normalcy, not intensity. The glimpse does its work quietly while you continue living. And know this, the calm you feel is not the absence of movement. It is alignment settling in. From here, everything you notice will be filtered through this clarity. You will not need to search for meaning. Meaning will surface naturally. This is what it feels like to see without distortion, to know without fear, to carry insight without urgency. Let it stay clean. Let it stay quiet. Let it do what it came to do. Once the knowing has settled, something practical begins to shift. Not in a dramatic, life-upending way, but in the ordinary structures of your week. Plans that once felt fixed suddenly loosen. Conversations get postponed. Invitations fall away without conflict. Your schedule breathes differently. This is not disruption for chaos. This is interruption for alignment. Heaven does not rearrange by force when force is unnecessary. It nudges. It adjusts. It quietly removes friction so you can move without resistance. And when you are attentive, you realize these changes are not random inconveniences. They are edits, precise ones. You may notice that your energy changes before your circumstances do. What once felt urgent now feels optional. What once demanded attention now feels unnecessary. This is not laziness, it is recalibration. Your internal compass has shifted slightly, and now everything external must reorganize around it. This is where trust matters, because interruption can feel uncomfortable when you expect continuity. You may catch yourself thinking, why now? Why this week? Why the sudden changes? But the truth is, continuity would keep you oriented toward old reference points. Interruption creates space for new ones. Notice how these changes do not come with panic. There is no crisis attached, just a sense that certain things are no longer meant to be done the same way.
You do not need to justify this to anyone. Alignment rarely looks logical from the outside. You may feel prompted to cancel something without being able to articulate a strong reason. Or you may feel an unexpected pull to do something simple and quiet instead. Follow that. These are not whims. They are course corrections. Small ones now prevent larger disruptions later. This is also where obedience becomes subtle. You are not being asked to make grand declarations or dramatic sacrifices. You are being asked to respond accurately to small instructions. Answer this message. Delay that decision. Leave earlier. Stay home. Speak less. Listen more. These instructions often arrive without explanation. Do not demand one. Clarity does not always precede obedience. Sometimes, obedience creates clarity. You have already learned how to act without panic. Now, you are learning how to act without overthinking. You might notice your appetite changing, not just for food, but for stimulation. Loud environments feel draining. Excess conversation feels heavy. You crave simplicity, clean spaces, fewer inputs. This is not withdrawal, it is preparation. Interruption also shows up in boundaries. You may suddenly realize you no longer have the capacity to engage certain dynamics, not because you are angry, because you are clear. You do not confront, you quietly step back, and surprisingly, there is no guilt attached. That is alignment speaking. Pay attention to how these changes conserve your energy instead of draining it. True interruption restores. False disruption exhausts. If something creates frantic effort, it is not aligned. If it creates calm efficiency, it is. You may also notice that time feels different. Not faster or slower, but denser. Moments carry more weight. Decisions feel more consequential even when they are small. This is because perception has sharpened. You are more present in each moment. Heaven rearranges weeks before it rearranges lives. This is intentional. It allows you to adjust gently instead of being forced later. What feels like inconvenience now is prevention later. What feels like delay now is precision. Do not resist the rearranging. Resistance creates friction where none is needed. Let plans fall where they fall. Let conversations pause. Let silence expand. You are not losing momentum. You are gaining accuracy. This is also where humility protects you. You may feel the temptation to explain your changes spiritually. Avoid that. Explanation invites scrutiny. Obedience requires no audience. Move quietly. Let results speak later. You may notice that some people react to your changes. Confusion, curiosity, mild resistance. That is not your responsibility to manage. When alignment shifts, not everyone understands immediately. Stay kind, stay firm, stay unbothered. Interruption also brings unexpected openings. A window of time appears where there was none. A chance to rest, to think, to pray, to simply be. Do not fill it automatically. Empty space is not wasted space right now. It is functional. This week is not asking you to do more. It is asking you to do less, but more precisely. Precision requires margin. Margin requires interruption. This is the logic heaven uses. You may feel an urge to clean, simplify, organize. Follow that. Physical order supports perceptual clarity. Clearing space externally mirrors what is happening internally. This is not superstition, it is coherence. There may also be moments where nothing seems to happen at all. Do not mistake that for stagnation. Stillness is active when perception is engaged. You are integrating. Integration cannot be rushed. Remember, you are not being interrupted because something went wrong. You are being interrupted because something is aligning. Alignment often removes what no longer fits, quietly rather than dramatically. Let your week breathe. Let it reorganize. Let small instructions guide you without needing to see the full picture. You will not miss what matters. What matters will find you. Stay responsive, not reactive. Stay attentive, not anxious. Heaven rearranges gently when the vessel is willing. And you are willing. That is why this interruption feels calm instead of chaotic. As clarity settles deeper, another shift becomes unavoidable. Not dramatic, not announced. Separation. Not the kind that feels harsh or punitive, but the kind that happens naturally when perception changes. You begin to realize that seeing clearly alters how you relate to almost everything. And that alteration comes with a cost. The cost is not loneliness, though it can look like it from the outside. The cost is compatibility. Certain conversations no longer land. Certain environments feel misaligned. Certain relationships feel louder than they used to, not because others changed, but because you did. This is not judgment. It is discernment maturing. You are not pulling away out of superiority. You are pulling back out of accuracy. When perception sharpens, tolerance for distortion decreases. You cannot unknow what you now recognize, and trying to pretend otherwise would fracture your integrity. This is where many people feel confused. They expect clarity to bring connection. Sometimes it does, but often, clarity first brings space. Space to breathe. Space to observe. Space to integrate what you are seeing without constant interference. You may notice that you speak less, not because you have nothing to say, but because words feel unnecessary. Silence becomes more informative than conversation. This can unsettle others. They may interpret your quiet as distance or disinterest. That is not your burden to carry. Separation is not rejection. It is refinement. It is the natural consequence of alignment. When you tune an instrument accurately, it no longer resonates with off-key sounds. That does not make the instrument arrogant. It makes it precise. You may also notice emotional distance forming without emotional coldness. You still care. You still listen. You still show up kindly, but you no longer merge. You no longer absorb energy indiscriminately. You remain present without becoming entangled. This is a crucial distinction. Detachment is not disconnection. Detachment is clarity without collapse. You are learning how to stay open without being porous. That skill protects perception. Some relationships may quietly fade during this time, not through conflict, but through lack of resonance. Effort becomes unnecessary. Conversation thins. Contact lessens. This can feel strange at first, especially if you are used to maintaining connection through effort. Let it happen. Forced closeness creates distortion. True alignment does not need maintenance. It breathes on its own. You may also experience misunderstanding. People may not know how to place you anymore. You do not fit the roles they assigned. You are not reacting the way you used to. You are not engaging the same way. This can create discomfort, not because you are wrong, but because predictability has shifted. Predictability comforts people. Clarity unsettles them, especially those who rely on surface dynamics. Do not correct them. Do not explain yourself excessively. Let the separation do its quiet work. There is also an internal separation happening. You begin to feel less identified with old narratives about yourself. Labels lose weight. Stories lose grip. You are less invested in defending who you think you are. That defense is no longer needed. This internal separation can feel like emptiness at first. Not emptiness as loss, but emptiness as openness. Space where identity once crowded awareness. This space is necessary. It allows perception to remain fluid instead of fixed. You might feel moments of sadness without a clear cause, grief without a specific event. That grief is not about loss of people. It is about release of former versions of yourself. Versions that served you once, but no longer match who you are becoming. Allow that grief. Do not dramatize it. Do not suppress it. Let it pass through. Grief is part of integration. It clears residue so clarity can settle fully. You may also notice that you are less entertained by surface interactions. Small talk feels heavy. Gossip feels jarring. Drama feels exhausting. This does not mean you are above others. It means your attention has recalibrated. Attention is valuable. Where you place it determines what grows. You are learning to place it deliberately. That choice naturally reduces contact with anything that thrives on excess noise. Separation also shows up as reduced urgency to be understood. You are less concerned with how others interpret your silence or your changes, not because you do not care, but because your orientation no longer depends on external validation. This can feel unfamiliar if you were once driven by feedback. Now, internal coherence matters more than external agreement. That shift is foundational. Be mindful here. Do not weaponize separation. Do not use it to judge or dismiss others. Separation is a byproduct, not a badge. It serves clarity, not ego. You will know separation is healthy when it brings peace, not bitterness. When it feels clean, not resentful. When it creates space, not walls. Pay attention to that tone inside you. There may also be moments when you miss connection simply because you are human. That is natural. Clarity does not remove the need for connection. It refines the quality of connection you seek. You are not meant to isolate permanently. You are meant to recalibrate relationally. To let surface connections fall away so deeper ones can form later. The timing matters. Right now, the space is intentional. It protects what is forming within you. Too much relational noise would distort integration. Silence acts as insulation. You are not being hidden forever. You are being hidden for accuracy. And accuracy requires time without interference. As separation unfolds, resist the urge to fill the space prematurely. Do not rush to replace connections. Let emptiness do its work. It is not a void. It is preparation. Clarity thrives in space. Insight matures in quiet. You are not being pulled away from life. You are being positioned to engage it differently. This separation is not an ending. It is a narrowing, a refinement of attention, energy, and alignment. And it will not last longer than necessary. For now, let the distance be what it is. Do not label it. Do not fear it. Do not resist it. It is part of seeing clearly without distortion. You are not alone. You are aligned. And alignment sometimes walks quietly before it walks visibly. Now comes the part that requires the most maturity. Not seeing, not knowing, guarding. What has been revealed to you is clean, but it is also vulnerable. Vulnerable not to loss, but to distortion. Revelation stays clear only when it is handled with restraint. The instinct to share is natural. Humans are relational. We process by speaking. We seek confirmation through response. But not everything that arrives is meant to be processed publicly. Some insights lose their integrity when exposed too early. This is not secrecy born of fear. This is stewardship born of wisdom. You will feel the difference immediately. Some things feel light when you speak them. Others feel heavy, like they pull energy downward when voiced. Pay attention to that sensation. Your body will tell you what to guard long before your mind understands why. Guarding does not mean hiding. It means holding with care. Think of it as keeping a seed in soil instead of placing it on a table for inspection. Seeds grow underground. Exposure too soon kills them.
This week, you are holding seeds. You are not meant to perform what you have seen. Performance dilutes clarity. The moment revelation becomes a tool for validation, it loses its depth. You are not here to prove that something sacred happened. You are here to live differently because it did. Notice how tempting it can be to explain your shifts, to justify your silence, to narrate your process so others understand. Pause. Understanding is not always required. Sometimes it interferes. Let your life reflect alignment. Quietly, explanations can wait. There is also a subtle trap here. Pride does not always show up as arrogance. Sometimes it shows up as urgency. The urgency to be heard, the urgency to declare, the urgency to demonstrate insight. That urgency is not aligned. True revelation is patient. Ask yourself this simple question before you speak. Does sharing this increase clarity or dilute it? Does it serve alignment or attention? The answer will be immediate if you are honest. And honesty here protects you. Guarding also means discerning your audience. Not everyone can hear what you have received without projecting their own frameworks onto it. Some will misunderstand. Some will trivialize. Some will try to interpret it for you. None of that helps. This does not mean you never share. It means you wait for resonance, not reaction. Resonance feels quiet and grounded. Reaction feels loud and destabilizing. You will know the difference instantly. You may feel pressure to turn what you have seen into language, into concepts, into conclusions. Slow down. Revelation does not demand immediate articulation. It integrates through living first. Words come later, if at all. This is also where humility deepens. You realize that seeing does not make you an authority over others. It makes you accountable to accuracy within yourself. Authority grows from consistency, not declaration. Guard your internal posture. Stay curious without becoming inflated. Stay open without becoming porous. Stay grounded without becoming rigid. Balance matters now more than ever. You may notice that some insights feel almost fragile, not weak, but new. Handle them gently. Do not dissect them excessively. Let them settle. Overanalysis fractures coherence. Simplicity preserves it. There is also wisdom in restraint from spiritual comparison. Do not measure what you have received against others' experiences. Comparison distorts perception. Your path is precise to you. Others' revelations do not validate or invalidate yours. Guard your energy as well. Limit exposure to noise, especially noise that seeks to sensationalize spiritual experience. Sensationalism feeds ego and anxiety. Neither supports clarity. Be mindful of how quickly spiritual language can turn revelation into identity. You are not what you saw. You are the one who can see. That distinction protects you from attachment. Attachment clouds perception. You might feel moments of doubt creep in, not because the revelation was false, but because you are guarding it instead of broadcasting it. Silence can feel like uncertainty when you're used to processing out loud. Trust the quiet. Guarding also involves patience with outcomes. Revelation does not demand immediate results. It informs orientation. Outcomes unfold in their own timing. Forcing results distorts the original clarity. If you feel compelled to do something drastic to validate what you have seen, pause. True alignment rarely requires dramatic proof. It unfolds naturally through congruent choices over time. Remember, the goal is not to impress. It is to integrate. Integration takes time. It happens through ordinary days, quiet decisions, and subtle shifts in behavior. That is where revelation becomes embodied. You are learning how to carry something without displaying it. That skill will serve you long after this week passes.
Many lose clarity not because they lacked insight, but because they mishandled it. Let this be different. Let restraint protect what is forming. Let humility keep it clean. Let patience allow it to mature. You do not owe the world your inner process. You owe yourself integrity. And integrity means honoring what you have received by not turning it into performance. Guard it, not tightly, gently, with respect, with stillness, with trust.
What is meant to be shared will become obvious later. What is meant to be lived will shape you now. Both matter. Knowing the difference is wisdom. Stay grounded. Stay quiet when needed. Stay open without announcing every movement. This is how revelation remains revelation and does not become noise. By now you can feel it clearly. What is unfolding this week is not meant to be rushed through. It is meant to be hosted. And hosting requires preparation, not performance. This is where the focus shifts from what you are seeing to how you are holding space for it to deepen without distortion. Preparation does not mean striving. It means arranging your inner and outer environment so clarity can remain stable. Think of it as setting a room before a guest arrives. You do not force the guest to come. You simply make the space welcoming, calm, and ready. Start with your inner room, your attention. This is not the week to scatter it across everything that demands stimulation. Notice how quickly clarity thins when your mind is overloaded. Noise does not just distract, it dilutes. So you begin by choosing fewer inputs, not out of discipline, but out of respect for what is forming. Silence becomes functional now, not awkward silence, intentional silence. Moments where you are not trying to fill space with thought, sound, or activity. In that silence, perception stabilizes. You begin to hear beneath thought rather than inside it. You may notice an increased sensitivity to what you consume. Media, conversations, even information that once felt neutral may now feel heavy or unnecessary. This is not restriction. This is alignment. Your system knows what it can carry right now without interference. Give yourself permission to step back without explanation. You do not need to announce that you are preparing for something. Preparation is not a statement. It is a posture. Your physical space matters more than you might realize. Order outside supports clarity inside. You may feel a natural urge to clean, organize, simplify. Follow that impulse gently. This is not about perfection. It is about coherence. When your environment reflects calm, your perception settles faster. Light matters. Air matters. Movement matters. Open windows. Take slow walks. Breathe deliberately. These are not trivial actions. They regulate your nervous system, and a regulated system sees clearly. Pay attention to rest. Not sleep as escape, but rest as restoration. Fatigue distorts perception. You are not meant to push through this week. You are meant to move through it with awareness. Slow down without guilt. Prayer, if it is part of your practice, shifts tone now. Less asking, more listening. Less structure, more presence. You are not trying to convince anything to happen. You are making yourself available to what is already happening. If words feel forced, let them go. Silence can be prayer. Attention can be prayer. Stillness can be prayer. There is no requirement to perform spirituality here. Journaling may help, but not as analysis. Use it as capture. Write what surfaces without trying to make sense of it immediately. Some insights are not meant to be understood in the moment. They reveal their meaning later. Dreams may become more active now. Keep something nearby to record impressions upon waking.
Not every detail matters. Often, the emotional tone carries the message. Calm, weight, urgency, peace. Let those guide interpretation later. Be mindful of your boundaries this week. Not defensive boundaries, but gentle ones. Say no without explanation. Pause before committing. Protect open space in your schedule. This space is not emptiness, it is capacity. You may notice that people reach out unexpectedly. Discern carefully. Not every reconnection is aligned. Some are distractions disguised as familiarity. Ask yourself how you feel after the interaction. Expanded or drained? Clear or foggy?
Your body knows. Preparation also means guarding your emotional landscape. Old patterns may try to resurface. Doubt, comparison, the urge to rush ahead or retreat entirely. Recognize these without engaging them. They are not messages. They are adjustments happening at the edges of change. You are not required to fix anything about yourself right now. This is not a self-improvement phase. This is a stabilization phase. Let what is forming take shape without interference. Remember, what you are preparing for is not spectacle. It is presence. Presence does not need props. It needs space. As the week unfolds, trust that you will recognize the moment of visitation, not because it announces itself, but because it feels inevitable, familiar, right. You will not have to chase it. You will simply be there when it arrives. Do not rush to label the experience. Labels close doors prematurely. Stay open. Stay receptive. Stay grounded. Preparation is not about effort. It is about availability. And availability is created by clearing what competes for attention. You are doing this already, often without realizing it. The quiet choices, the pauses, the refusals to over-engage. They are all part of preparation. Let your inner room stay clean. Let your outer room stay simple. Let your attention stay steady. That is enough. What is meant to meet you this week will not miss you. You do not need to summon it. You need to remain present enough to recognize it. And you are. As the week reaches its quiet turning point, something subtle settles into place. Not an ending, not a climax, a commissioning. You may not feel dramatically different, but you are undeniably oriented differently. And orientation determines movement long before action becomes visible. This is where many misunderstand what commissioning actually is. They expect instruction in the form of commands, assignments spelled out clearly, a list of next steps. But true commissioning happens internally first. It establishes how you walk before it tells you where to go. You're not being sent out loudly. You are being sent out accurately. What has changed is not your personality, not your role, not your external identity. What has changed is your relationship to truth. You now recognize it faster. You feel misalignment sooner. You sense timing with greater precision. This is not power in the dramatic sense. It is authority in the quiet sense. Authority that does not need to announce itself. From here on, you walk like someone who is seen without needing to describe what was seen. You listen differently. You pause longer. You respond instead of react. These are not passive traits. They are marks of someone who moves with awareness rather than impulse. You may notice that decisions come easier now, not because options are fewer, but because clarity filters them naturally. You no longer need to exhaust yourself weighing every possibility. Some choices simply feel complete. Others fall flat immediately. That simplicity is not loss of freedom. It is refinement of attention. Commissioning also means restraint. You will feel less inclined to force outcomes, less inclined to convince others, less inclined to chase affirmation. This does not make you indifferent. It makes you effective. Effectiveness does not rush. It aligns.
You are not being asked to become intense. You are being asked to remain steady. Steadiness outlasts intensity every time. It allows insight to compound rather than burn out. You may feel the urge to take one small practical step after this week. Not a dramatic leap, a precise adjustment, a boundary honored, a habit released, a conversation delayed or approached differently. Follow that. Commissioning expresses itself through small obedience first. Do not underestimate the power of one accurate step taken without fanfare. That is how alignment anchors itself into reality. You are also not meant to isolate permanently, but you are meant to choose connection deliberately. You will recognize resonance more easily now. It will not need explanation. It will feel calm, mutual, grounded. Those connections will matter more than many loud ones ever could. As you move forward, you may notice that others sense something has shifted in you. They may not name it correctly. They may not understand it at all. That is fine. Commissioning does not require recognition to be valid. It requires integrity. Integrity here means this: you live congruently with what you now perceive. You do not pretend to be unaware to make others comfortable. You do not exaggerate your insight to feel important. You simply live honestly. This honesty will shape your choices, your pace, your boundaries, your tone. People will feel it before they understand it. You are not responsible for managing how others interpret your growth. You are responsible for remaining aligned with it. From this point on, clarity will continue to refine you quietly. There will be no constant fireworks, no continuous intensity, just a steady unfolding of discernment, precision, and calm authority. You will still face uncertainty. You will still not know everything, but you'll trust your orientation enough to move without panic. That trust is the mark of commissioning. You are not walking blind anymore. Even when the path curves, you will sense where to place your feet. That is enough. This is not the moment to declare victory. It is the moment to walk faithfully, to carry what you have received with humility, to let it inform rather than inflate. And now, as this section closes, let everything you have noticed this week settle without pressure. You do not need to rush into explanation. You do not need to chase confirmation. You do not need to recreate the experience. You simply need to continue living with attention. What was meant to be seen has been seen. What was meant to be known has been known. What was meant to shift has shifted. From here, you walk forward, not as someone waiting for permission, but as someone aligned with timing. That is commissioning. Now let the pace slow completely. Nothing more needs to happen tonight. Nothing more needs to be figured out. The work that mattered has already been done quietly, beneath thought, beneath effort. What remains is integration. Take a breath and notice how your body feels. Not excited, not heavy, grounded. That grounding is not accidental. It is the result of clarity settling into place without resistance. This is how alignment feels when it is real. You do not need to replay every moment of this week. You do not need to analyze every insight. Trust that what mattered stayed. What did not matter fell away naturally. That is how perception organizes itself when it is ready. As you move into the days ahead, let your life respond gently. Eat, rest, walk, speak when needed, be quiet when needed. There is no performance required from you now. What you witnessed was not meant to impress you. It was meant to prepare you. And preparation always feels calmer than expectation. If doubt whispers later, return to stillness. Not to words, not to explanations, to the internal knowing that arrived without effort. That knowing did not come from emotion. It came from alignment. Alignment does not disappear when feelings fluctuate. You are not carrying a burden.
You are carrying clarity, and clarity lightens life when it is trusted. Nothing about you needs to change overnight. Growth will express itself naturally through how you choose, how you pause, how you listen. Now that the week has unfolded and the intensity has softened, there is a quieter phase that begins. This phase does not feel dramatic. In fact, it can feel almost ordinary. And that ordinariness is the test most people fail, because they expect meaning to always announce itself loudly. But what you are entering now is where the real work happens. Integration. Integration is where what you saw becomes how you live. It is where clarity stops being an experience and starts becoming a posture. You are no longer standing at the doorway. You are walking back into daily life with a different orientation, and that is more significant than any single moment of revelation. You may notice that nothing externally has changed yet. Your environment looks the same. Your responsibilities are still there. Your routine resumes. This can create a strange temptation to doubt the depth of what occurred. But listen carefully. Real shifts do not always rearrange the outside first. They rewire how you move within it. You will begin to notice this in subtle ways. You pause before responding where you once reacted instantly. You choose rest without guilt. You disengage from conversations that feel unnecessary without feeling rude. These are not personality changes. These are alignment markers. This is what it looks like when perception has recalibrated. One of the clearest signs that integration is happening is that you stop needing reassurance. You are not constantly checking to see if you are still aligned. You are not scanning for signs the way you were earlier. You trust your internal orientation enough to let life unfold without micromanaging it spiritually. This does not mean curiosity disappears. It means anxiety does. Curiosity remains gentle. Anxiety collapses. If you notice yourself craving dramatic confirmation again, pause. That craving is not hunger for truth. It is discomfort with quiet stability. Let stability settle. Integration also reveals itself through patience. Not forced patience, but natural pacing. You no longer feel compelled to rush toward outcomes. You are more interested in accuracy than speed. You'd rather take one aligned step than 10 impressive ones. This is wisdom forming, not hesitation. You may also notice a shift in how you relate to uncertainty. Before, uncertainty might have triggered worry or mental spirals. Now, uncertainty feels neutral, even spacious. You do not need to resolve everything immediately. You trust that clarity will arrive when timing requires it. This trust does not come from optimism. It comes from lived experience. You have seen that clarity arrives when you are present, not when you are frantic. That lesson stays with you now. Be aware that integration can feel anticlimactic. The nervous system often expects a drop after intensity. Do not misinterpret that drop as loss. It is settling, like sediment in water finally falling to the bottom so the surface becomes clear. This is also where humility deepens. You realize that seeing does not make you exceptional. It makes you responsible. Responsible for how you treat others, for how you use your attention, for how you carry yourself in ordinary moments. That responsibility is quiet, but it is real. You may find that you are less interested in proving your discernment and more interested in protecting it. You choose environments more carefully. You are selective with media, conversations, and commitments, not out of fear, but out of respect for your clarity. Integration also means accepting that others may not notice any change in you, and that is okay. True shifts do not require witnesses. If anything, the absence of reaction from others confirms that the shift was internal, not performative. If someone does comment that you seem calmer,
steadier or different in an undefinable way. Let that be enough. Do not explain. Do not attribute it to a moment or a message. Simply acknowledge and move on. The work is ongoing, not finished. There may also be moments when old habits try to resurface. Patterns of overthinking, people-pleasing, overcommitting. This does not mean the integration failed. It means awareness is now strong enough to notice these patterns early. Notice without self-judgment. Correction is easier now because perception is clearer. Integration does not demand perfection. It demands honesty. When you notice misalignment, you adjust without drama. You do not shame yourself. You simply recalibrate. You may also experience waves of fatigue. Not physical exhaustion, but a kind of spiritual settling. Honor it. Rest when needed. Integration uses energy. The system is reorganizing. Pushing through this phase only delays stabilization. Let your body guide you. Eat simply. Sleep consistently. Move gently. These are not distractions from spiritual growth. They are how spiritual growth anchors into the physical world. Another sign of integration is reduced fascination with spiritual content that sensationalizes experience. You may feel less drawn to dramatic language, urgent messages, or exaggerated claims, not because they are all false, but because your system now recognizes noise more quickly. This does not mean you abandon curiosity. It means your curiosity matures. You seek depth, not stimulation. Integration also brings compassion. You may find yourself less judgmental toward those who are still chasing experiences or validation. You remember what it felt like. You do not feel superior. You feel patient. That patience is evidence of grounding. As days pass, you will realize that what you saw did not give you answers to everything. It gave you orientation. And orientation is more useful than answers. Answers expire. Orientation adapts. You now move through life with a subtle internal reference point. When decisions arise, you check against that reference without effort. When something feels off, you notice early. When something aligns, you move without resistance. This is the long-term fruit of the week you just lived through. Not constant revelation, consistent clarity. Let this passage close with this reminder. You do not need to hold on to the experience tightly. You do not need to recreate it. You do not need to fear losing it. What integrated cannot be lost. It becomes part of how you see. Trust that. And as you continue forward, let your life speak quietly. Let your choices reflect steadiness. Let your pace reflect wisdom. You have already seen what you were meant to see. Now you live from it. As integration continues, you begin to notice something almost surprising. The center of your life feels quieter, but the edges feel clearer. You are not numb. You are not detached. You are simply less pulled by every passing current. This is what it means to live from a quiet center. Living from this place does not make life easier in a superficial way. Responsibilities still exist. Challenges still arise. People still misunderstand you at times. But the way these things land is different now. They do not knock you off balance as easily. They arrive, you register them, and you respond without losing yourself inside them. You may notice that your inner dialogue has softened. Thoughts still appear, but they no longer argue so loudly for control. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels supportive, like a steady ground beneath your awareness. This is not something you force. It is something that happens when trust replaces vigilance. One of the clearest signs of this quiet center is how you handle moments of choice. When a decision presents itself, you do not rush to solve it mentally. You wait. You sense. And often, the right direction becomes obvious without debate. This does not mean every choice feels easy. It means clarity no longer requires struggle. You also begin to recognize when something is not yours to carry. Other people's emotions, expectations, and projections no longer stick the way they once did. You can care without absorbing. You can listen without merging. This is not emotional distance, it is emotional maturity. From this place, compassion deepens. Not the kind that rushes to fix, but the kind that allows others their own process. You stop trying to rescue people from lessons they need to live through, and in doing so, you respect both them and yourself. You may find that your sense of time continues to feel different. You are less pressured by artificial urgency. You do not feel late. You do not feel behind. You feel appropriately placed. This does not mean you become passive. It means you act when movement is real, not when anxiety demands it. Living from the quiet center also means accepting that not every day will feel meaningful. Some days will feel plain, repetitive, unremarkable. Do not mistake this for loss of alignment. Depth does not announce itself daily. It supports life silently in the background. If moments of doubt return, and they may, meet them gently. Doubt does not undo what has integrated. It simply tests whether you trust your own orientation without constant reassurance. You do not need to push doubt away. You also do not need to follow it. Let this phase be simple. Let your life unfold without commentary. Let your clarity express itself through consistency rather than intensity. You are not meant to stay at the threshold forever. You have crossed it already. Now you walk forward, not searching, not proving, not grasping, just living, quietly aligned, steadily present.